a massive disappointment for Disney, losing money for them. But however, I think Frozen and of course anything else that came after that, they got that money back instantly. Lone Ranger is based on the legendary character of the same name, directed by Gore Verbinski, written by Justin Haythe, Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio, I believe, comment below. Stars Johnny Depp, Armie Hammer, Tom Wilkinson, William Fichtner, Barry Pepper, James Badge Dale, and Helena Bonham Carter. And actually, it's scored by Hans Zimmer. That's just something I want to talk about. I'm just saying that. And of course, it's a whole. Now the film is about like this young boy this young boy goes to this fair and he finds this older version of he finds Tonto as the Indian Tonto, like Native American Tonto, incredibly old, and he retells him the story of the Lone Ranger and him, like how they came to be as a team and had to stop this plan involving a corrupt government involving like gold and silver. Well, let me look it up. Like, it was like trying to really help, like, to bring justice to, like, you guys seen the trailer, you've probably already seen the movie, so I'm just gonna go say it. Like, the Lone Ranger, like, he goes with his brother, like, probably Texas Rangers. He heads his brother out to the canyons to find this criminal, and they're ambushed. He manages to survive. Tonto rescues him, and thus he helps establish a new identity for him as the Lone Ranger, and he and Tonto form a team to help take down the government, like over a plan involving like the railroad, silver and gold, and bring justice. Now, originally when this movie was coming out in 2013, I was actually pretty excited for it because it just looked like a lot of fun, and I just felt like it would be kind of just a fun time with the movies. And to be honest, Johnny Depp was, a likable presence. I guess some people still like him, but he's just not the same anymore, which is really sad. And yeah, also, I mean, it just looked like the trailers were just fun. I like to be watching the trailers over and over again, because I mean, why not? Had a cool soundtrack. Yeah. And originally when I saw the movie back in 2013, I actually flat out loved it. But as I got older, I really just haven't been able to like it anymore. I really realized why it was poorly received and what makes it a failure. Not a complete failure, but just not that great. I mean, here's the problem with this film. It doesn't feel like you're really the Lone Ranger. It feels more like a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, because you have the director of the first three movies, Gore Verbinski, involved, and you also have Johnny Depp in there. And the character he plays at Tonto, not even close to the original character himself. I did see, I think, one episode of the TV series, and it's completely different. I guess you could say, like, he has that broken English, like, the way he speaks English is kind of similar, but he feels more eccentric and more of a Johnny Depp character, more of the way like we consider Johnny Depp character, more of like Jack Sparrow. And yeah. Now I'll get into this movie. I mean, I feel like here's the thing about this movie. I feel like that this movie had a lot of production issues. Like the budget was overinflated. They actually had to stop production for a while. They were delaying it. They had to keep delaying the film. And actually, they had to take the cast and crew had to take salary cuts. And finally, the film was made. The film was finished, and it was released in theaters. And it was a poor success. It was an unfortunate failure, critically and commercially. Yeah, that's pretty sad, actually. And that's pretty sad because this is an iconic character. He's an iconic character and part of pop culture. And it would have been nice to see another big action blockbuster in a western. I mean, here's one thing. Last year, like the year before that, in 2012, Quentin Tarantino made his highest-grossing film ever, Django Unchained, which made over $425 million. And that was a western. So excited for Hateful Eight, just saying that. And the thing is, I mean, that had potential, because I mean, this could really get the western genre back on its feet and make it popular again. We may have to wait for Quentin Tarantino. We have to wait for the Hateful Eight to really solidify that. Or wait till there's more westerns coming out, and of course they'll be good and successful. Yeah. Now, this movie just no longer fits for me. It's just not a very good movie. My biggest issue with this movie is it is so damn long. It's almost 2.5 hours, and really nothing happened. The guy doesn't die, and John Reed, the Lone Ranger, he doesn't don the mask until an hour into the movie. And before that, there's a big action set piece involving a train that's a little bit cartoonish. I'll get to that later. And of course, that ambush. And yeah, it's kind of stupid. It just doesn't really work. I mean, it just wastes so much time getting into that. And when the stuff finally happens, it doesn't always get to the best parts of the movie. Yeah. And like there's a lot and like yeah. Okay, let me get to the pros first. I'm gonna get to the pros. There are some fun action sequences, even though they are a bit over the top and cartoonish at times. I still had some enjoyment getting out of them, but and there's so many of them. They feel like they're almost like they're about to be the final battle or something like that. But you know, whatever. I still enjoyed it. There are some times where I did laugh, even though like some of the humor just wasn't that delivered awkwardly. I guess I found some laughs out of there. There is entertainment value. There is some good production values. The visual effects and the makeup is pretty good, is really good actually, and the cast is not bad. Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp, the chemistry, it's fine between them. It's nothing really that really stands out. You know, I mean, you can't. It's just okay. I guess it's better than ever, but I guess it's better than it probably could have been. Well, actually, it could have been much better, but it could have been worse also. Yeah. But that's really not many praise I can give it. Sure, production values are probably good, do say something, visual effects and makeup and some action sequences, but yeah. Also, it is a nice looking movie. There's some good cinematography. It looks pretty good. Like, it has a nice look to it, and especially helps with the action sequences because you can really see the action very well. Yay. The action sequences are fun. But let's get to the cons. Now, like the acting, it's not bad, but really, it's more of the characters I have issues with. Like, I mean, they just don't really embody the character. They just don't feel like the characters that people know them as. Like Armie Hammer, like the way he portrays the Lone Ranger, he just doesn't really fit for the role because the character starts out not really that strong character, kind of almost like a wuss, I guess you can say. And then later on, he does evolve. I mean, it's not surprising, but he does have some cool, yeah, but I mean, he does have some entertainment value, I guess you could say. But overall, he doesn't really he doesn't really have the morals of the character. He's a little bit more morally corrupt, I guess you could say. I mean, sure, the government's corrupt, but I still think he'd be a lot more structured in terms of morals and be more, you know, not even really try to kill people. I just felt like, you know, he'd be a lot more, he'd feel more like, more human than how they're portraying him in this movie. Tonto, now this guy's another iconic character. And I mean, it's actually Johnny Depp. I just think he's a little bit too much like Jack Sparrow in the role, but he's not bad. He's entertaining at times, but you know, he's not always the best part of it. He has some entertaining. I don't think he's awful, but you could have just got another Native American. I'm sick of like some people criticize Hollywood whitewash whenever you're casting like, you know, actors in different roles and different like actors with different ethnicities from the roles that they're playing. I'm getting kind of sick of that too, but I'm not too offended by it because I just think it's a bit too big of. If you think it's that big of a deal, please calm down. I mean, Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. The film is also really long. I mean, 2.5 hours. Sometimes it gets really boring, and it just doesn't really seem to really do much. Also, the action sequences, sometimes they're really cartoonish. Like, it just doesn't always work. I mean, there's some crazy stuff like people falling on rocks, a horse standing on a tree branch. And it sometimes just feels silly and over-bloated, and that kind of takes you out of the experience. There are some logical gaps that just don't make sense to me, like Armie Hammer like John Reed waking up on top of this structure, like this wood structure on the edge of a cliff. What the hell is that about? It doesn't show he got down, because I mean, I didn't see a ladder there. Well, from what I remember, I haven't seen the movie for like 2 years, but that's a bit, yeah. But let's get to other issues I have with it. Another issue, and also like yeah, not only does it feel cartoonish and have a few logical gaps, there's some times where the tone shifts don't always work for me. There are sometimes some forced attempts at humor, and it just doesn't work for me. It feels really awkward, and it just doesn't have a flow or really good any build-up or really any payoff as a joke. Sometimes I did laugh, but as a whole, it felt desperate for laughs. It just didn't work for me. Also, when I talked about the fact that Tonto is telling the story, like, as an old guy, there are events told in this movie that Tonto was not, present for. How would he know about certain events that are being presented to us? Here's one thing I mean, they could have just told the story basically outright. They didn't need to tell him like from the perspective of an old Tonto. They actually kind of make it more believable that in terms of the events that he recounts. 'Cause, I mean, did people tell him about those events? Because I don't really remember. Because I don't think anyone told him. Because they never really explained that. How would he know certain stuff? I don't think he would know. I just find that hard to believe. Also, another issue I have is that overall, it's just not that believable at times. And overall, it just didn't feel like that the characters were really like the characters that people grew up to them watching like the radio show, like listening to the radio on in the 50s or something like that, or listening to the show on the 50s, 60s. I really don't know when people were doing that during this time. Comment below. But it just doesn't work. Sometimes it gets kind of boring, and some of the action sequences are just really cartoonish. Some of the characters in this movie just don't have that much of just don't feel that strong. They just don't really fit very well for me. They just don't work for me as a whole. It's just like, it just really is disappointing to see something like this. Because this is a film with all of the big budget and great production values and a talented cast. Why does it feel wasted? Because of the script, I think, is the main... I think the script was the biggest problem. Because, I mean, the way it was written, it's almost like it feels... And also, I think maybe a bit of the direction. Don't get me wrong. I think Gore Verbinski is a talented director. I think he can do pretty good stuff. I mean, he won an Oscar for directing Rango, which actually has Johnny Depp in there. I think they have a great collaboration together. Though no one will ever forget Johnny Depp and Tim Burton. Side note. But that's another issue I have. It just felt like he's trying to almost like make a Pirates of the Caribbean film again. It just didn't feel like he was really doing the character justice. Yeah. Film's not awful, but it was one of the bigger disappointments of 2013 and a big letdown for fans, I guess. Disney can have any big failure and make up for that with their next film. They make money out the wazoo. Yeah. Lone Ranger's not awful. You can probably enjoy some action sequences. Maybe you might be taken out of it by the fact they're very cartoonish at times. But overall, I did have some fun with this movie. I had some fun with this movie, but really the biggest issue is that the story sometimes doesn't work. The way how they tell the story just doesn't feel very believable, and it kind of just confuses me a bit. And it just... some of these action sequences are so overbloated. It just feels like, oh my god, it's like oh, the final battle. Oh wait, that's the final battle. Yeah. There's also tone shifts that don't work for me, and overall, as a whole, I felt I was just let down a bit. I didn't hate this film, but it really could have been better, especially with a talented crew like this and cast. I'm going to give The Lone Ranger a 2 out of 5. I didn't hate it, but I just felt like it just didn't do justice to the character. It had some big issue. It just felt like it was a Pirates of the Caribbean wannabe, and it really does show. You can enjoy aspects of it, but overall, I was not very impressed. Anyway, guys, my review for The Lone Ranger. Comment below what you think about it. Would you like to see? Do you want to see another version of The Lone Ranger being made into a film, but not as overbloated, more subtle, like a lot more lower, but like a lot more scaled back in terms of budget, and probably be more and be written by and not be written by anyone that not involve crew members that have any association with the Pirates of the Caribbean series. Another thing I also want to talk about is that Hans Zimmer also does his own version of the Lone Ranger theme. I think it's it's a lot slower, and it fits well for the action scene being presented where it takes place in. But it's fun. Yeah, I was fine with that. Actually, there's a scene where like the horse runs atop the train. That is really hard to believe. Actually, it's impossible to believe. Anyways, guys, comment below and subscribe to my channel for more videos.